The great change in spying came with the invention of radio and the development of code breaking. This produced an enormous increase in two things: the volume of intelligence and the value of intelligence. The volume because an awful lot of messages are radioed, and in value because you are getting the very words of the enemy, the very orders that the enemy is giving, and so you can't beat that in getting intelligence about what's going to happen.
They had to find ways to conceal the message, and that's where coding, encoding, and decoding comes into play.
There are two kinds of methods of putting messages into secret form. One's called a cipher, one's called a code. A cipher is where you exchange letter by letter. So CAT might become, in the simplest form, DBU. It goes letter by letter. On the other hand, there are codes. Codes go word by word, and they are contained in books. So if you want to change a coded message, it's like translating it from an English language dictionary into French.
Without these books, codes are almost impossible to crack. But Britain's code breakers had a head start, thanks to a surprise gift from their Russian allies.
The British were very lucky at the start of World War I, when the Russians captured a code book from a stranded German cruiser, the Magdeburg, and this was in a sense a Rosetta Stone for the Britons to begin their code-breaking activities in World War I.
The information in the Magdeburg book helped the British keep the German Navy's surface vessels bottled up for much of the war. But the Germans were changing their codes and creating new ones all the time. To keep up, the British needed more code books. A natural place to look for them was in the German U-boats and other ships sunk by the Royal Navy. The job of going down to find them went to a young seaman named E.C. Miller.
I cannot imagine going into the hull of a submarine with these corpses hanging around and with conger eels eating at the corpses and bouncing up against you while you're trying to figure out where these code books are located in some kind of a locker somewhere and coming out and doing them. But he was a guy with cold blood, I guess, and he managed to do it and did it not once, but many times. When Britain got these code books, they suddenly realized that they had in their hands an opportunity to read the enemy's messages, which means reading the enemy's mind.
The power of code breaking to reveal the working of an enemy's mind would inspire the creation of a whole new kind of espionage, known as signals intelligence. In 1917, this new discipline would help the British to change America from a neutral non-combatant into a full partner in the war against Germany. It all began that January, when a top-secret message was intercepted by British agents working in London's Admiralty building in a nondescript office called Room 40.
Room 40, the British naval code-breaking agency, has been attacking a lot of German diplomatic codes with some success. And one morning, Nigel de Grey, who's a middle-level figure in the political department of Room 40, comes to Admiral Hall, who's in charge of British naval intelligence, and says, "Sir, would you like to bring the United States into the war on our side?" And Admiral Hall looks at him and says, "Well, yes, my boy, I would."
De Grey handed Hall a copy of a secret document history remembers as the Zimmerman telegram. It was only partially decoded, but it was already diplomatic dynamite. In it, German Foreign Minister Arthur Zimmerman seemed to be revealing a plot to take the death and destruction of World War I to a whole new level. The Germans were about to declare unrestricted submarine warfare on every ship crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
It meant that the Germans would sink any ship, regardless of whether it was an armed merchant ship, whether it was a warship, it was an unarmed merchant ship, whatever, in waters around Great Britain in the northern Atlantic. The goal was to strangle Great Britain, to intercept trade between the United Kingdom and the rest of the world, primarily the United States.
If the code breakers were right about Germany's plans, Zimmerman's telegram might force America into the war. But until the telegram was completely decoded, the British couldn't be sure.
Hall is convinced that it's hard to play this unless you've got a perfect reading, and so he sends this back to the political department and says, getting a perfect reading of this is your highest priority.
Zimmerman had done all he could to keep his plot secret. He sent his telegram by cable instead of the radio waves that his enemies could easily intercept, and had its contents hidden behind a code he considered unbreakable. The agents in Room 40 knew that the future of the war, and possibly their nation, might rest on proving him wrong.
No other significant intelligence coup has ever had the importance of this, and I think you can say that in those few moments when they were breaking the code breakers held history in the palm of their hand.
The British made little headway until they realized that Zimmerman's message was actually a code within a code. That breakthrough allowed them to go on to discover a plot even more shocking than the declaration of submarine warfare.
The Germans, by deciding to launch unrestricted submarine warfare, have taken a path which they know will bring the Americans into war, the only question being when, and they are trying to stave it off as long as they can.
The rest of Zimmerman's telegram revealed a plot to keep America out of World War I by getting it entangled in a war in Mexico, a nation the U.S. had invaded twice in the past 2 years.
Arthur Zimmerman, the German Foreign Secretary, drafted this alliance proposal to Mexico and telling the Mexican president, look, there's probably going to be war between the United States and Germany, and in case this happens, we offer you a pact, we offer you an alliance. You attack the United States, you get money and weapons, arms from us. In turn, you will receive Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico. This was territory that they had lost in the War of 1848.
This turned out to be such a fabulous propaganda possibility that the British, in the form of Admiral Hall, gave it to his foreign minister, who gave it then to the American ambassador, who gave it to President Wilson. And when Wilson realized what this was, he made it public, and suddenly there appeared on front-page headlines all over the United States on the 1st of March, 1917, statements that the Germans wanted to make war with Mexico against the United States.
It's pretty sneaky, to put it mildly. And from the perspective of most Americans, this is absolutely outrageous. I mean, I think it would be very hard for anyone not to regard what the Germans are doing as outrageous in lots of ways.
German sympathizers in America even insisted that the telegram was too outrageous to be true. It had to be a British forgery. But Arthur Zimmerman himself proved them wrong. When a reporter asked him if he had sent the telegram, the surprised foreign minister simply answered, yes.
The whole country exploded, and 6 weeks after this, the United States entered the war.
Zimmerman's plot had backfired completely, thanks to signals intelligence. Espionage would never be the same.
It alerted admirals and generals and politicians to the significance of intelligence, and it alerted them to the importance of code breaking.
Everyone learns that intelligence is an important way to gather power in war, especially code breaking, but also human intelligence. And they find out that if you're going to gather intelligence effectively, it helps to have professionals.
And countries that had not had any code-breaking agencies before World War I, such as Great Britain, the United States, Italy, and Germany, those countries did not have code-breaking agencies before World War I, all set them up afterwards.
Over the course of the 20th century, these secretive agencies, and the spies who ran them, would complete the transformation of espionage from an amateur activity to a full-time profession. Governments have come to rely on spies for protection from terrorists, other spies, and attacks by enemy nations. Secrecy keeps their activities out of sight until a rogue agent is caught using espionage for treasonous or greedy ends, or when their efforts to protect us fail. But as spy tools grow more and more sophisticated, one thing is certain: espionage is here to stay.